Gold dust exchange completed. Experience gained, 600. Received. The Fargo deep mine completed. Experience gained, 480. Received 1 silver, 25 copper. Quest accepted, the Jasperloot mine. Received 1 silver, 25 copper.
You receive item, glowing wax sticks 5. You receive item, Williams shipment.
Quest accepted, shipment to Stormwind. You feel rested.
You receive item, small brown pouch.
Aggro. Aggro.
You receive loot, ruined leather scraps.
Aggro.
You feel normal.
Excuse me.
You receive loot, crystal kelp frond. You loot 5 copper. You loot 11 copper.
Aggro.
You loot 4 copper.
Aggro.
You receive loot, ruined leather scraps.
Aggro.
You receive loot, patchwork belt.
Aggro.
You loot 9 copper. You receive loot, shiny seashell. You loot 9 copper.
Aggro.
You loot 3 copper.
Aggro.
You receive loot, ruined leather scraps.
Aggro.
You receive loot, cracked short bow. You receive loot, crystal kelp frond. You loot 11 copper.
Aggro.
You receive loot, stringy wolf meat. You receive loot. Ruined leather scraps.
Aggro.
You loot 1 copper.
Aggro.
You receive loot. Fractured canine. You receive loot. Stringy wolf meat. You
Aggro.
receive loot. Ruined leather scraps. You loot 10 copper. You loot 1 copper.
Aggro.
You receive loot. Shiny seashell. You receive loot. Crystal kelp frond. You receive loot. Crystal kelp frond. You loot 14 copper.
Aggro.
You receive loot. Stringy wolf meat. You receive loot. Light leather.
Aggro.
You receive loot. Ruined leather scraps.
Aggro.
You receive loot. Stringy wolf meat. You receive loot. Light leather. Tactic says, any tailor able to make 6 slot bags? My mats.
Discovered Brackwell pumpkin patch. 70 experience
Aggro.
gained.
You receive loot. Chipped boar tusk. You receive loot. Chunk of boar meat. You receive loot. Ruined leather scraps.
Aggro.
You receive loot. Linen cloths 2. You loot 6 copper. You receive loot. Small pumpkin.
Aggro.
You receive loot. Ruined leather scraps.
Aggro.
Please kill him! Oh god, what if I don't win? Nope. Oh god, please help me. Please help me, please help me. Please help me. Please, no. Oh, why are you not gouging? Why? Oh my god, please help me. No! Why? I had an evasion. Well, there goes a level 9 character. Jesus Christ. Try again. Why did she kill me? Why? They took forever. They took forever. Fuck. Well, there goes that. For fuck's sake, man. Wow. I played it perfect. She evaded everything. I guess I have to be higher level. Oh. She evaded every gouge and just killed me. Wow. Oh. I don't understand. I played everything perfect. She just resisted everything. I need to be higher level. Fucking higher level. All that work. At least I didn't do the fishing. Wow. God damn it, man. That guy even tried to help me and we couldn't kill her. I was like, what the fuck? I'm the same level. I evaded all, like, everything I was supposed to do. And she kept evading gouge and evading gouge. And I was like, oh, okay, I need a gouge. I need one. Nope. Why did she evade like 3 gouges? Why? Oh my god. Ugh. So how long was that? It took me 10 hours and I died. Full blown died. 10 hours in and I died. It's a lot harder than I thought. I have to take it more seriously. Fucking A. Wow. See, the quests, I went to go do quests and I died. It's the quests, like the quests again are getting me killed. I should just not even take them. I have to, like, have the discipline not to take the quests. I just, like, anytime they take me anywhere, like anywhere stupid. Anywhere stupid. I have to have the discipline to not take those quests. Do not take those quests. Oh my god.
Quest accepted. A threat within.
Oh, it's so annoying. It's the quests. I can't take any quests. I should turn off the add-on and like all that stuff. Guideline Sage and Guideline Tugs. All that stuff.
Experience gained, 40. Quest accepted, Cobbled Camp Cleanup.
I'm addicted to hardcore and it keeps kicking my ass because I'm not taking it seriously. It's fucking annoying. Well, I'm learning to take it seriously. I guess. I mean, I don't know. I've not had something kick my ass in a video game in a while. It's good to have something that's a challenge. This thing is kicking my ass, I would say. Fucking A. It's eating my time and giving me nothing in return. I'll tell you that.
Aggro.
You receive loot. Ragged leather vest. You loot 3 copper. Cobalt
Aggro.
Vermin says, yee. We run. You receive loot. Melted candle. You loot 4 copper.
Aggro.
You loot 1 copper.
Aggro.
No quests. I can't take any quests. I gotta have the discipline to not chase the rabbit down that stupid ass hole. There was no need to throw away 10 hours of work because I took their fucking quests. Their quests are designed to make you fail.
Aggro.
Oh, God, I can't believe that. But no anger this time. I like every time that
Broken fang.
I'm crushed and I lose 10 hours or something, I'm learning how to deal with my anger better, and that's something that's definitely makes this worth it. If I can just be like
Receive loot. Broken fang.
fiddle-dee-dee. If I could just be like fiddle-dee-dee rather than being like, I'm gonna kill somebody. It would be good. It would be good if I could get that kind of fucking control. The fucking pig killed me. It's so annoying.
You receive loot. Chipped claw.
I spent so much time skinning today. So much time to get ahead, and it was just stupid. It was stupid.
Aggro.
And buying that sword, I had to like dance through hoops and stuff. God damn, daggers suck dick. Daggers suck so bad.
You receive loot.
All my money is
Aggro.
going towards a
You
sword
receive
right
loot.
away.
Melted candle.
Sword right away.
5 copper. You receive loot. Frayed shoes.
Aggro.
You loot 3 copper.
God damn annoying. Alright, I'm going back out.
You receive loot. Bag of
Aggro.
butter. You receive loot. Melted candle. You loot 2 copper. You receive loot. Melted candle.
Aggro.
You loot 4 copper. Cobalt Vermin says, you know take candle. You receive loot. Frayed pants.
Aggro.
You loot 1 copper.
It's the quests. Can't do those quests. Can't touch the quests.
Aggro.
You receive loot. Shiny red apple.
Aggro.
You receive loot. Melted candle. You loot 5 copper. You loot 2 copper.
Aggro.
You receive loot. Ragged leather pants. You loot 2
Aggro.
copper. You receive loot. Melted candle. You loot 1 copper.
I don't know. The quest kind of adds structure as to where you're supposed to be. I'm going to eat. It's like 3:30 in the morning. No, just go.
Received 25 copper. Quest accepted. Investigate Echo Ridge.
You receive item. Encrypted letter.
Quest accepted. Encrypted letter.
God damn it, no more quests. I already took too many. It's like stupid.
Aggro.
You receive loot. Frayed cloak.
Aggro.
You loot 1 copper. You receive loot. Frayed cloak.
Aggro.
You loot 1 copper. You receive loot. Melted candle. You loot 2 copper.
Aggro.
You loot 4 copper.
Aggro.
Worker says, you know take candle. You receive loot. Melted candle. You loot 5 copper.
No quests this time. No quests. No traveling. No quests.
Aggro.
You receive loot. Broken Fang.
Aggro.
You receive loot. Ragged leather boots. You
Aggro.
loot 2 copper. Cobalt Vermin says, you know take candle. You receive loot. Melted candle. You
Aggro.
loot 3 copper. Cobalt Vermin says, VE.
Oh, I'm addicted to hardcore. It's gonna be in my, it's in my system. If I can just walk right back in like that, it's in my system. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna make it to 60. I'm gonna try.
You loot 3
Aggro.
copper.
It has been like 10 hours of music or something. Yeah, how far are we into this? Like number 92 or something? All 5 minutes a piece or something? Yeah, like
You loot 1
so.
copper.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch something on YouTube now. Like I've been listening to this Final Fantasy list for like 8 hours. But I'm happy that something can hold my attention. Almost none of these games can hold my attention like this one like is. So get out of the fire. Ugh.
Battered buckler.
Fucking
You loot 5 copper.
annoying. Alright. I need to eat because I'm low blood sugar and I don't want to make mistakes. Like I don't know. Princess was stupid. I kept saying I don't want to do any quests. I don't want to do any quests. And then I kept doing quests, and now I really have to like not do quests. You know? Can I turn the quests off of the tracker? Where's the
I was
tracker
asked to
at?
bring this.
Nope. I'm looking to turn the quests off of the tracker, which I don't know how you do that. But I think there's like a tracker. I don't know. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to reach it or whatever. I don't know how to do that. Oh well. When I think of how much time I've wasted now, Jesus Christ! But at least the mode's good. It's
Aggro.
It's got its claws in my soul.
You loot 1 copper.
Aggro.
You receive loot. Bent large shield.
Aggro.
You loot 2 copper. You receive loot. Shiny red apple.
Fucking
You receive loot.
Aggro.
Melted candle.
annoying.
You loot 1 copper. You loot 5 copper. Cobalt
Aggro.
Vermin says, you know take candle. You receive loot. Shiny red apple.
Aggro.
You loot 4 copper. Cobalt Worker says, you know take candle. You receive loot. Ragged cloak. You receive loot. Shiny red apple. You receive loot. Melted candle. You loot 5 copper. Cobalt Vermin says,
Aggro.
VE. We run. You loot 3 copper. Trip Knight says, hooray. You receive loot. Melted candle. You loot 4 copper.
Goddamn quest! I didn't
Aggro.
listen to myself.
You receive loot. Battered buckler. You loot 3
Aggro.
copper. You loot 1 copper.
aggro,
I don't know what I'm gonna eat. Oh, I'm gonna make a sandwich, I guess? Yeah, I'm gonna make a sandwich, I guess. I wish I had a way to slice bread a little bit
You
easier.
need one copper.
What I do? Oh, damn addictive ass game, fucking hardcore. I didn't know how bad, or like, I didn't know how much hardcore was gonna sink in. I have been dying too much. As a gamer, I am facing it. Some of the gamers that I respect the most, they don't die that much. And fucking, like, I just die too much. As you can see, I die too much. I don't care. I'm too reckless. Part of this is, like, rewiring my whole fucking feckless fucking thing. I'm totally feckless.
Melted candle.
I'll just go in. I don't care if the person kills me or not. I don't care if I lose 10 hours. I don't care.
You receive loot. Ready
You know,
level belt.
and that sucks. Like, I need to fix
Aggro.
I need to fix
Refreshing
that.
spring water. You receive loot. Melted candle. You loot 1 copper. You receive loot. Battered buckler.
I'm noticing that humanoids are better to grind on
You receive loot.
because
Melted candle.
they're just, you
You
know,
cover.
like skinning is good. But I don't know what I'm going to do without a potions, and I think I will go herbalist alchemist. I think I will do. It'll be annoying. Well, I mean, no, I'm not traveling enough. I need to go skinning. So, like, skinning's good. But like, I don't know. And leatherworking's nice. But, like, I don't know. I don't, like, and I can't get, I can't, like, I don't know. I'm debating over that, too. I might be choosing the wrong profession. It'll be pretty hard without potions. A potion would have fixed that mess I was in. I don't know. No, enough potions are going to fall. I'm okay with leatherworking skinning. I know enough potions are going to fall. I know they will. I just need to grind, like, humanoid mobs, you know. Like, I have 2 silver right now. That's better than I was doing. I need to upgrade, like, my dagger, because this shit sucks.
You receive item. Dirt.
Oh, what's this? Oh, no. What's this? It's a side fleet issue. Doc. No, it's too late. I can't. Oh, no, I can. Oh, good. Get out before he kills me. Yay. Bye-bye, me. Yeah, bye. Yeah, sorry. I don't know why he keeps showing up there. Alright. Well, I don't have to stay here. I can go over to a different system. Let's go to a different system, I guess. That's fine. He like wants me out of that belt. Use your words. If you were to go to local and be like, get out of here, I'd be like, okay. You know.
Docking permission requested. Docking request accepted.
Gotta go back. Although, yeah, I guess when I ding, I'll go train. God damn it, I'm impatient. I must get control of my, like, fucking impulsiveness.
aggro,
Spent all my life as a, like, impulsive druggie. And it's not translating well to this. It's not doing so well. I need to like be a little bit more calculated, a little bit more careful. It's fucking annoying.
aggro,
You loot 1
aggro,
copper. You receive loot. Melted candle.
aggro,
You loot 4
I
copper.
wonder if somebody's written a guide for
Cobalt
melee
ring.
grind.
You run.
Grinding guide, right? Let's see what this guy has to say.
That's why we need to just log in and oh, which should
What?
Our classic guide. This is part 2 of the level 1 to 60 grinding series, Badlands. You're gonna be grinding
Cobalt
these
Vermin says,
greater rock
VE.
vermin.
Me run.
Oops.
Aggro.
You receive loot, ragged cloak. You receive loot, melted candle. You loot 2 copper. You receive loot, shiny red apple.
Aggro.
You receive loot, ragged leather pants. You receive loot, melted candle. You loot 4 copper.
Aggro.
You loot 4 copper.
Until level 46. Here you'll get some nice loot, and there's gonna be
You're a bad person if you say Concord sucks. Oh no. Yeah, like
once you've got the quest, run over to the just to get that little bit of XP boost until level 12 grinding. Quest as you can to get from level 12 to level 13 as fast as possible. You don't want to be hanging out in this forest for too long.
this is a terrible ass guy. Yeah, like I can just grind. I don't need to do quests. It's actually probably faster, honestly.
Aggro.
The quests, I got it. Like, okay, don't take a quest. Don't worry about quests. I wish I could take them off my mini map. I could just kill the mini map, but no. I want the quest markers off the mini map. I guess. But anyways, yep. Just keep killing kobolds, I guess.
Aggro.
I wish I could turn the sound effects down more. The master is up too high.
You receive loot, shiny red apple. You loot 2 copper.
But I need to be able to hear if something's happening, you know?
Aggro.
You receive loot, frayed shoes. You receive loot, melted candle. You loot 3
That
copper.
guy's got fiery.
Cobalt
What's
order
he
says,
doing
VE.
here?
Me run.
Velmarina.
You loot 2 copper.
Why?
Aggro.
You receive loot, melted candle.
Aggro.
You loot 2 copper.
Aggro.
You receive loot, ruined PLTX2. You loot 3 copper.
I wish they would drop bags right away. Oh, that's the upgrade dirt. Oops.
Aggro.
You receive loot, ruined PLTX2.
Those are upgrades. Why aren't you telling me? Oh yeah, that worn dagger. God damn it, man. I can't believe I died to fucking princess after all that time fucking skinning and all that. I'm so stupid. I need to, like, learn from the mistake and not get caught up doing stupid shit like that. I worked so hard to get my shit up to, like, 150. And I'm learning that those profession grinds are thrown out the window the minute you do something stupid. I need to be careful every time I do something. I didn't think that they could possibly kill me through evasion.
Aggro.
You loot 3 copper.
Aggro.
You loot 2 copper.
Aggro.
I hate daggers. It's annoying that they make you pay like 12 silver just to
You loot 5
just to
copper.
get a sword.
Aggro.
You receive loot. Shiny red apple. You loot 2 copper.
Aggro.
I think I've got to take the aggro voice off.
You receive loot. Shiny red apple. You loot 1
Aggro.
copper.
No, I need to
You loot 1
know.
copper.
Aggro. Aggro. So... Oops, maybe I shouldn't think about this. Yeah, I'm totally close to it, but I'm not at the cap. Oops. Okay, I'm gonna pause here. Let's find a video to watch, and I'm gonna make something to eat here. It's my dinner time. Yep, going to bed here soon in a couple of hours. Feel like I got almost nowhere, but not quite. I'm learning. Whatever. I don't mind. It's not looking good for Mr. Beast. If you're a bad person if you say Concord sucks. Yeah, Starfield is still embarrassing. Yeah.
What up, friendos? Welcome back. Today,
Okay, this will be good, but I'm gonna go get something to eat. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm gonna make something to eat. I don't think woke ruined this game, no.
Stance on a popular game has become a bad habit. And see if we agree or disagree. Off the headline, if I was to guess, I would probably say I disagree with it, just because I think there's nothing really inherently wrong with just being like, big corporation that only makes games for money, and they're usually soulless husks designed to, cattle farm the consumers, bring them in and milk them as much as possible. They lost a couple $100 million trying to make some slop nobody asked for. I think that's fine. Like, it is what it is. They're companies. They're not going to get their feelings hurt. I think when it goes too far is when people go and attack the developers, or go and point out things to the developers as individuals just for working on the game, as if they're bad people for doing a job. I think that's pretty bad. But then some of these developers react in ways that makes it very difficult to have sympathy for them. But ultimately, I have to have sympathy for them because I'm a YouTuber and I literally get this stuff myself, so I can understand sort of it being overwhelming for people that don't sign up for having this be a part of their life. But obviously people's reactions here are pretty interesting. The eagerness to spread negativity and lies about game studios that don't go along with your agenda has become a bad habit. I agree. Yeah, I agree. There's obviously issues with what game companies like PC Gamer have done with the Black Myth Wukong stuff, which is pretty accepted at this point. It was a pretty bad article talking about mistranslated tweets and things like that. So I will just address real quick, because some people did bring this up in the previous video. A lot of people brought it up in a very respectful manner, which is cool. Some people were saying, oh, Kira, you've gone so woke that you can't even see that wokeness killed this game, and things like that. Obviously, I don't agree with that, but I did say in the video, I don't think I really went over it in depth or gave like a great, concise explanation of my thoughts and feelings on this. I said the primary reason the game failed was the gameplay, and I 100% stand behind that. I think the game failed because of the gameplay, first and foremost. And people were saying, oh, if you think the aesthetics don't matter
if it's
to a
fun,
shooter,
I'll play it.
you're wrong or naive or ignorant. And I don't think that they don't matter. I just think that they're a barrier for people trying the game, right? But if the game was good enough, again, remember it's a first-person shooter, so you don't see your character when you're playing the game. It's designed to be a competitive first-person shooter. It's not designed to be like a very arcadey, fun game. It's designed to be like as far as I can tell from playing it, it feels like it's supposed to be a bit more of a competitive element to the game. So in a competitive shooter, something like Counter-Strike or Call of Duty, something in that vein of game, the aesthetic is a secondary to the actual gameplay for people that would play a competitive game. But it is a barrier for people trying the game. If you see a game and it visually looks bad, less people will try it, but the people who do, if the gameplay is good, they'll bring people who thought the aesthetic were bad to play because they'll hear the game's good, and then they'll stick around if they can get past the aesthetic, because again, you're mostly just shooting things that are moving very fast and you're playing a first-person game, so you're not seeing your characters. But obviously it is a barrier for people getting into the game. The thing is though, that people tried the game and they all left, so I've got to say it's the gameplay first and foremost, because if it wasn't, those people would still be playing and the game would have a steady or upward trajectory for players. So does it matter, like, the aesthetic of the game and the character designs? Yes. But do I think the character designs are bad because of woke? No. The character designs are bad because the characters are poorly designed. This is a big robot. It looks shit. Is it shit because it's a woke robot and it's political? No, it's shit because it's a big robot that looks like a man in a garbage can. Like the character that's like a big... Is it in here? Oh, they didn't post it? Oh, here we go. They did post it. This is everywhere, by the way. Is this character poorly designed because it's a person of colour that looks a bit chunky? No, it's poorly designed because it's a mint green fucking blob of armour. Like, the characters in this game are not designed badly because of any reason other than they just fucking suck at this aesthetic. Games that want to do something like this with a diverse range of characters, and I'm not saying diverse in the way people are using nowadays, I'm using diverse in the literal sense, in terms of like things being very different, they need to be stylized. because when you have everything trying to be like a, not hyper realistic, but like a realistic sort of graphics, it's very hard to make characters that stand out from each other and look really, really cool, because it's sort of like, it would look odd, right? It'd probably look Uncanny Valley type stuff. So when you basically only have humanoids and robots, this is supposed to be like a universe, right? This is supposed to be, there's aliens everywhere and stuff. Robots.
You are no longer
ugly,
AFK.
big fat robot, just chunks of metal, and then humanoids. You could do this with a different graphic style and have them be wacky and really stand out, but this ain't it. And this certainly turned people off the game.
Aggro.
Cobalt Vermin says,
But
you know
if the
take candle.
gameplay was good, people would have played it, and that's just where I'm going to rest on that one. But
You
I
receive
definitely agree
melted
that
candle.
the aesthetic plays a
Aggro.
factor, of
You look
course.
recover.
If you're going off the title that it's, I said, but only because it isn't good, it's a title, it's supposed to get people to
receive
click,
loot.
not
Flimsy
have
chain cloak.
every single opinion I have
Aggro.
on the
You
topic
receive loot.
within
Shiny red apple.
just the title. But there we
You
go,
look for copper.
let's talk about this. Concord's low
Cobalt
turnout has
Vermin
led
says,
to the
B.
usual
Me run.
jubilation over the prospect
You
of
receive
seeing a
loot.
big
Shiny
game
red
fail. Sony Hero Shooter Concord launched late
Copper.
last week, and its Steam concurrents haven't yet topped
Aggro.
1,000. Spoiler alert, it's not going to. Unless they release free to play and everyone's just like, yeah, I'll give it a go and see how
You
bad
two
it
copper.
was, and then
Aggro.
they'll
Cobalt
quickly
says,
stop
you know
playing the
take
game
candle.
because it's a bad game. The dramatically low turnout has already earned it the title of biggest flop of the year on social media. And if you caught any of
You
the
receive loot.
discussion on
Refreshing
Reddit,
spring water.
TikTok, and other platforms over the weekend,
Aggro.
you
You
mostly saw
Melted
people
candle.
gloating, posting screenshots
You
of
lose three
Steam
copper.
BD concurrent charts
Cobalt Vermin
and
says,
tacking
you know take
on
candle.
a generic dunk, or claiming
Aggro.
it's
Melted candle.
rules that we can all see a big
You
game
lose three
fail.
copper.
What is this quote? Let me look at this real quick. I feel like Steam numbers have really recontextualized
You
just how
receive loot.
badly
Bent
big
large shield.
executive games can bomb, and it rules.
You receive loot. Melted candle.
I agree with this.
Aggro.
Are we
You lose four copper.
disagreeing with this? Are we
Cobalt Vermin
disagreeing that
says,
it's good
B.
we have
Me run.
transparency in the industry? Because
You lose two
I'm
copper.
sure a lot of
Aggro.
executives would love to hide when their game's unpopular, because they do. They don't tell you their game numbers. They haven't done it in a long time. Like WoW used to report subscriber numbers, and now even though subscriber numbers are apparently, allegedly healthy, they're still not going to tell you. Games love not telling you the numbers. If the numbers were amazing, they sometimes would, but then they're not going to continue to always go down. Transparency is good. As a journalist, don't you think transparency is good? I'd have thought you would have been one of the first people being like,
aggro,
I guess you've seen something here.
You receive loot. Melted candle.
Because when I read this, I think
You
it
would recover.
rules that
Aggro.
we get to see this. Like, we get to see the data. I think that's
receive
what he's
loot.
saying.
Shiny
Maybe
red
he's
apple.
wrong. Maybe
Aggro.
I'm wrong,
You
sorry.
want
Maybe
cover.
I'm misinterpreting it. I feel
Cobalt
like this
Vermin says,
article,
"Yee."
the person
You win.
writing this is basically saying
You receive loot.
he's saying
Melted
it
candle.
rules that the game failed.
You loot 2 copper.
Whereas I don't think that's what he's saying. Correct me if I'm
Aggro.
wrong, guys. Let me know in the comments if I'm getting a misread on this. But I feel like that's what the article's saying. That jubilation over Concord's low turnout.
You loot 1 copper.
Yeah, I
Aggro.
think he's getting the wrong end of the stick here, to be honest. It apparently cracked the top 50 bestsellers on the PS Store over the weekend, derives to some
You receive loot. Broken
degree
Fang.
of an I told you so sense of justice. The idea that out-of-touch, creatively bankrupt
Aggro.
executives are cynically chasing trends, and that the rest of us would have had the common sense to avoid releasing a Concord, a Marvel Avengers, a Suicide Squad, a Gotham Knights, or that perplexing Gollum game.
You receive loot. Ragged cloak.
Yeah,
Aggro.
I mean,
You receive
I
loot.
think most
Melted
people
candle.
would, right? Because who
You need 5
asked for
copper.
any of these games? More
Aggro.
live service games that do nothing new and are just designed to milk the player base. Who asked for this? You can only have so many of these exist, by the way, before there's just
You
no
receive
space in the
melted
market for
candle.
things like this. But all the
You need 1
companies think
copper.
it's like a never-ending well of resources, and they are if you make a great one. But if you're not going to innovate in any way, like Marvel's Avengers, I played this shit. It was trash. It was very, very poor. And then
You
we're
would recover.
using the popularity of the Avengers at the time and Marvel Comics to sell a mediocre, well, a subpar, shitty product. And they were doing it to cynically make money.
You receive loot.
And
Ragged leather
was
razors.
this...
aggro,
Do you think
You receive loot. Refreshing
people are
spring water.
making a Marvel video game
You receive loot.
and they're
Melted
like,
candle.
oh, this is my passion project, man.
You would
Like,
recover.
I love this. This is amazing. We're making the
You receive
decisions
loot.
for the
Great belt.
love of the material and the love of the fan
You loot 1
base.
copper.
No, it's being made by a large corporation to make money. And that's fine. Because if they make a good product, who cares what the motivation was? I think most people just agree with that through virtue of like being a consumer. Like if something's good, people don't care about this shit. If something's bad, then they're gonna like laugh about it, right? Because then there's no reason to excuse that stuff. There's no reason to look past it. And yeah, of course some people are gonna be like, I told you so, because they have told you so. Like, stop making live service sloppy games that people don't want. Otherwise, the games are gonna fail and then they're gonna laugh at you. Like, it is what
They're
it
all
is.
gonna
If
laugh
wanna
at you.
chase this perpetual revenue stream, go ahead. But then people are gonna laugh when it fails. It is what it is. And that perplexing Gollum game, yeah, that was an interesting one. It's not actually that easy to know why one game succeeds and another doesn't. It kind of is though, isn't it? Because one's good and another one isn't. It's kind of that simple really nowadays because of social media.
Cobalt
aggro,
Vermin says.
The devs
"Yee."
at Firewalk
Right.
Studios, many of whom are ex-Bungie, have made a game in the genre they have experience
You receive
in
loot.
and
Ready
released
leather
it
pants.
without the free-to-play monetization we so
You
often
receive loot.
complain
Melted
about,
candle.
Aggro.
which isn't a cynical or
You loot 2 copper.
underhanded thing to do. Were people saying that having a box price on this and
You
not
receive
having
loot.
it free
Melted
to play
candle.
was cynical or underhanded though?
You loot 4 copper.
'Cause
aggro,
I've not seen anybody say that. Maybe they have and I've just missed it. But I don't see the relevance here. I really don't see what this has to really do with anything.
You receive loot. Melted
The
candle.
box price again is an issue
You loot 4
because the game's
Aggro.
worse than their competitors and costs more money. Like, it's just that the game's gonna fail based on that. Concurrency numbers have, in some situations, acquired a moral quality. If you release an unpopular game, everyone is suddenly morally
You loot 4
justified
copper.
to shame and embarrass you, whether it's because all big budget games are bad, or live service games are bad, or you just did too much work,
Aggro.
pick one. There's certainly an element of this, of course. But at the same time,
You receive loot.
I
Green
think
cup.
it's very unhelpful when
Aggro.
game journalists write whole articles treating minority opinions and minority actions
You receive loot.
as
20
if
chain
they are
pants.
the norm, because
You receive loot.
they're
Shift
certainly
block.
not. If you think the majority of people are shaming or moralizing in some way or trying to embarrass
Aggro.
individuals who made the game, the overwhelming vast majority are not doing that.
You receive loot.
They're
Melted
simply
candle.
laughing at the game as a
You loot
as
recover.
a inanimate object, and the fact that Sony put so much money into this. They're not trying to shame and embarrass individuals who worked on the game. So I'm sure some people are, because I know people on the internet are very, very unhinged.
Aggro.
But I don't think it's useful to write articles where the entire premise is basically focusing on extremes. My guess at the real reason for all this grave dancing is that it feels like a victory over FOMO, fear of missing out. If the new
You
$40
recover.
game sucks and no one's
Aggro.
playing it, I can safely go back to whatever I was playing before without worrying that anyone's having fun without me. Is this... I legitimately want to know, because I think this is wrong. But can you guys let me know in the comments if anybody feels this way? Like,
You
if you
receive
were honest
sent
with
large shield.
yourself, is this a thing you've
Aggro.
never thought?
You receive
Do you
loot. Shiny red
feel
apple.
that you've won over
You loot 5
FOMO
copper.
because the game is bad
Cobalt
and it
worker
costs
says,
$40
you notate candle.
and you'd have had to have bought it if it was good? Because
You loot 4
I've
copper.
never felt like this, but, you know, maybe
Aggro.
I'm missing something. Beating up on unpopular games is also a way to passively farm a satisfying sense of vindication. If I never paid attention to a game that fails at launch, it affirms the
You loot 1
correctness
copper.
of my judgment and the immaculacy
Aggro.
of my taste without any effort on my part. I don't think this is like a majority
You
opinion
receive
at
loot.
all.
Flimsy chain vest.
Maybe some people feel this way.
You loot 3 copper.
You know when people dunk on things on social media? You know why they do that? It's because they get validation from it and they get upvotes and they said the popular thing. Most people didn't play this game, nor would they have been interested in playing this game, but it's very easy to post something and be like, lol, Concord bad. And they're right, lol, Concord is bad. But that obviously plays a factor, and people are going to join in on that bandwagon. It's just how the internet works. But are people really like going into this with the idea that like, oh yeah, this makes me sound really smart and cool and I'm correct all the time? Maybe some, who knows. When a struggling game has a high enough profile as Concord does, the reasonable impulse to crack a joke about Steam concurrence gives way to that sort of thinking, which then gives way to a shit-talking free-for-all that turns the developers into cartoonish corporate stooges and totally warps the reality of the game. Has it warped the reality of the game though? The reality of the game is that nobody's playing it, by and large. Like, it's a very unsuccessful game, just factually. How are they warping it? And again, are we really saying that like the minority of people, the vast minority, by the way, a handful of people probably, are really going after the developers and turning them into cartoonish corporate stooges? Because if somebody says, oh, this game was just developed to make money, are they wrong? Are we saying Sony put hundreds of millions of dollars into this, allegedly? Again, nobody knows the number as far as I'm aware. I've seen 50 to 100 to 200 million, who knows? Are we saying that they put that money into there because they're not just trying to do that? Because that is like a corporate, that just seems like what they did. But, you know. Battlefield 2042 became one of these dog piles back when it launched. The game also was dog shit when it launched. And to make their point, its detractors started copying and pasting a giant list of features from previous Battlefield games that DICE was accused of removing, including features I don't remember anyone liking in the first place. I never saw anyone use Battlefield 1's fortification building system, but it became a must-have feature as soon as it could be used as a bludgeon. So, Battlefield 2042, when it came out, right, was pretty universally panned. Has it
Aggro.
recovered now? I think people didn't like the game, right? 2.2. It even got a 68 off of critics, which is not a good score for a video game nowadays from the big companies that are doing these reviews. My question would be, why, when a game
Aggro.
is reviewed poorly, doesn't do well, and everyone can see that and agree on that, mostly, of course some people are going to like it, but by and large people are agreeing with this, why would you feel like it's a thing you need to do to go and look at like one thing that somebody listed that's been removed from the game and be like, oh, you're actually just picking fault and using this as a bludgeon to attack the game and the developers? Why would you focus on that and not just focus on the fact that, yeah, the game was bad when it launched and it probably got better after it launched, but what difference does that make to the launch reception? Because you're even talking about back when it launched, which it launched in a bad state. And also, this is just kind of true that this is kind of how games go now. The Sims does it all the time. The Sims 2, if you have the DLCs, has more content in it by the end than when
Andromeda
Sims 3
says, does anyone need help with
releases
Hogger?
by a
I'm in
country
the area and
fucking
can help kill
mile.
the RQ.
And then you basically get in a game that sometimes they even take features that was out of the base first version and then sell them back to you in a DLC. And I'm not saying that they did this, but when you, so let's say you bought the new Call of Duty and they sold map packs like they used to, or, you know, Halo or whatever, and then you play that game for 2 years, then the new one comes out, and you have less maps to play on than the one previously, and they're all gone, and then you have to rebuy them when they get released later. And they do this with features. They don't always sell them back to you, but often they just rush a new release of like a new version of the game, and they take stuff out. Do some
Kiwi
people
says,
care about
"Yeah, if
those
you don't mind."
features? Sure. Do some people notice that they're gone and say, oh, there's just less stuff in here now, and it's a bad game? You know, if it was a good game, they wouldn't be even talking about this. The fact that they are means that obviously they're just pointing out all the things that are missing and that are
I
wrong
didn't
and
go
that
to
are
the
bad
trainer, yeah.
because the game's
Oh well,
bad.
that's fine.
Otherwise, you know, they wouldn't be making this post on Reddit in the first place. So yeah, I just feel like it's odd to focus on like, oh, you know, this one thing that nobody used, that was in there, and they used it as a
Aggro.
bludgeon, as opposed to, yeah, the game was bad, and there was a big list of stuff that wasn't in there. I don't think the mistake DICE made with Battlefield 2042 was not making a list of every discrete feature that's ever been in a Battlefield game and then putting them all into one game. But through the warped lens of Reddit and other platforms, that's what the conversation became.
Discovered Goldshire.
Is
45 experience gained.
Is it though? Or were they just saying these are the things that were missing and the game's bad? You're laughing. Sony spent 300 million on Concord and on release couldn't break past 700 concurrent players, and you're laughing. Good meme. Good meme. Above, it's not clear where this 300 millions figure has come from. It never is. People just
You
make
have
shit
learned
up,
how to
but
create
it's
a new
funny,
item.
so
Hand-stitched
it is
leather
what it is.
braces.
Concord's Steam launch
You
numbers
have learned
are
how to create a new
astonishingly low
item.
for a
Hand-stitched
blockbuster
leather cloak.
competitive game. True. But the
You have learned how to create a new
gnashing of
item.
social media
Hand-stitched leather
hasn't
vest.
delivered any real insight
You have
into
learned
why
how to
it's
create a new
fared so
item. Light
poorly.
leather.
So you could take this
You
sentence
have
either
learned
way,
how to
right?
create a new item.
Some
Light
people
armor kit.
have given
Oops.
insight onto why it's fared
You have
so
learned how
poorly.
to create a new
I've
item.
done it.
Hand-stitched leather
I've
boots.
seen people do it.
You have
But
learned
if
a
you're
new ability.
addressing
Leatherworking.
only
Apprentice.
the piranha-like gnashing on social media, then of course that's how you're going to see it. But if you're not, there is insight out there
You
on
have
why
learned
it's
a
done
new
poorly.
ability. Skinning. Apprentice.
You just have to look for it and not treat it as if everybody's just doing this. Because of course when something is this popular, there's going to be opinions from everybody because it's 2024 and everyone with a social media account has an opinion. And obviously when people see a game that's this huge and it's done this badly, this is one of the most embarrassing launches I've ever seen for a product that's cost this much money. It's pathetic. Like, there's no other way to describe it. It's really, really bad. Some onlookers have said with conviction that Concord's $40 price tag was obviously one of the problems. It was. Factually, it was. Forgetting that Helldivers 2... The fuck is irrelevant? Okay, yeah, let's give him a chance. Let him cook, as the kids would say. Forgetting that Helldivers 2 was the biggest rate at the end of the year, and a game also published by Sony is $40. What has that got to do with literally anything? As we say, what has that got to do with the price of milk? Yeah, they're both $40, and they're both published by Sony. They're the only two things that I can see that have any kind of correlation or relevance. One of them is a competitive first-person shooter that is competing directly with other games that do exactly what it does, but better. And one of them is a game that has no real competitor in terms of what plays like Helldivers 2 in the market when that game came out. Nothing off the top of my head. Like, you could argue the I guess co-op drop-in games like Deep Rock Galactic and things, but not really the same. I don't know what this has really got to do with anything. Maybe I'm just missing, maybe I'm in a really critical mood and I'm just being a dick. In a saturated market where 39 games released on Steam each day on average, 38 of them being just shovelware hentai garbage, by the way. So yeah, I'm not convinced that price was a problem. It was. Concord couldn't even get a large audience to give it a shot during its free beta. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but didn't the free beta happen after the paid beta? And people had already said, like, oh, the game sucks. And the marketing for this game was trash, by the way. If you watch the gameplay video of this game, like, look at the gameplay trailer for this thing. 3 months ago, let's look at this one. Like, this is the gameplay trailer. This is not how the game looks, by the way. This is just, obviously, their interpretation of how people would look playing the game. actually looks worse than the real game does. Nobody plays games like this, it looks goofy. So, yeah, the marketing for this game was utter ass. Let's be honest. Yeah, so I think I proved my point on that one. I'm not convinced price was a problem. Yeah, they didn't give it a shot because people who played it said it sucked, and it looked like it sucked. I don't have the one true answer, but my take for now is that Concord isn't selling a fancier narrative that's getting FPS players excited to play it in the first place. Before they've decided even whether they like its guns, characters and modes, and one reason I can imagine it's struggling in that respect is that it doesn't have an easily disseminated identity rooted in competitive shooter pedigree as its competitors do. Valorant is Counter-Strike, it's easy to tell your Discord friends it's CSGO by the League of Legends studio, that's fine. I don't think this plays like a huge factor. Apex Legends came from Infinity Ward lineage, Deadlock is Dota plus TF2, Concord comes from ex-Bungie devs, but I don't get the impression that Destiny 2 fans perceive it as an offering with any deep spiritual connection to their beloved space fashion game, of which the PvP Crucible is a small part. I don't think this makes that much of a difference, because again, this is ignoring the fact that people played the game and quit. Right? I think the game's just bad. I think this is the simplest thing in the world. We've got to the point where we need to justify making an article about something that can be explained in very simple terms. The game's bad, so people didn't play it and they quit when they did. If this was the only thing that mattered, or that had like a major factor, the people that played would have continued playing. It's just that the game's bad. It is what it is. Dramatic post-launch turnarounds do happen, and maybe updates and a sale can get Concord some momentum. I fucking doubt it. Or maybe there just isn't enough oxygen available to a game with Concord's particular characteristics in late August 2024, a period that's included one of the fastest selling games ever on Steam, a World of Warcraft expansion, great new games like Tactical Breach Wizards, and now Valve's own hero-based MOBA shooter hybrid. I mean, it's undoubtable that this game came out at a bad time. Deadlock becoming essentially open beta would have smothered the fuck out of this game in the first place, even if it was good, because it's a Valve game and everyone loves Valve. And Valve games come out very seldomly, and this one's a banger. So, yeah, I'll give you that. I'll even give you the one of the fastest selling games ever on Steam came out, which, you know, let's ignore the fact that the fastest selling game on Steam sold 90-something% of its copies in China, so was Concord competing with the Chinese audience? Because if not, this doesn't really play that much of a factor. Plus, it's a single-player game, people are done with those in like a week usually. World of Warcraft expansion, World of Warcraft players are World of Warcraft players, they're probably not going to be playing Concord anyway. But I do get what you're saying. But at the same time, I don't think there's a good argument for is there enough oxygen for Concord. I think that Concord's bad, and therefore there is no oxygen for it because people want to suffocate this game because it sucks, and that's just how it is. DICE went on a years-long Battlefield 2042 overall campaign after its rough launch. It's possible Firewalk will stick with it. It's possible Firewalk will, but it's not their choice, is it? They got purchased by Sony. So it's up to Sony to say whether or not they're going to continue paying for them to try and fix a game that they've paid hundreds of millions of dollars for and has failed abjectly, utterly, disgracefully, embarrassingly. Will they let them continue? I don't think so. I think throwing good money after bad on this one is a total waste of time. I've said it and I'll say it again. I don't think you can do anything with this game. I think maybe if you... The thing is that I have to assume some level of like competence or understanding, which is hard to do because you released a game like this and nothing about this game is good. The aesthetic's not good, the gameplay's not good, the things people care about are not good. So if you released a game like that, one of two things happened in my mind. Could be wrong again, I'm just me talking utter fucking shite. I know nothing about any of this. One, the corporate overlords force you to launch it because you're massively over budget, massively over time, and they just wanted to start getting some money for it, in which case those people, they're not going to make the game better, are they? And them giving you more money isn't necessarily going to change anything because you've had 8 years to do that. Or number two, you're the creatives, you had full control over this, you had full control over when it released, and you decided it was ready now, in which case you're incompetent and the game is never going to do anything. Either one of those two is a indictment of the state of the game and the game going forward. maybe there's a third option, maybe there's 57 more options, who knows. But the fact is that the game released like this, and somebody did that. Somebody said, this is ready, launch it. Or they said, you've had long enough, get
You
it
have
the fuck
learned a
out
new
the
ability,
door.
stealth,
Either
rank
way,
1.
I can't
You have
then
learned a
have
new
faith
ability,
that, you know,
pickpocket.
sticking with it will change
You have
everything.
learned
You
a new
stuck with it for
ability,
8
backstab,
years,
rank
and
1.
this is what you got. And it's one of the worst failures I think I've ever seen in AAA gaming, which is saying something. Either way, the reflex to cheer for Concord's failure, as if it's deserved, only produces resentment and misunderstandings, creating an environment where everything is deemed obvious and real analysis is drowned out in favour of shareable quips, surface
receive
level
item,
observations,
weighted throwing
and
ASCX200.
hyperbole. I mean, these all have
You receive item,
places
weighted
in
throwing ASCX200.
modern discourse. I don't even necessarily completely disagree with this sentence. I just think that it's coming from a place that most people are just don't care about. Again, most people don't care about this shit. They don't care about why it failed, or you know, are you responsible, or should you, you know, pat them on the head and say, oh, there, it's okay, Sony. Like, bro, it's a huge company. Who gives a fuck about Sony? I don't care about Sony. I'm sure some, you know,
You
what they
receive
call them,
item, skinning
ponies.
knife.
Is Sony the pony fan? I don't know. I'm sure some people really care about Sony, but I don't, because I understand that companies don't care about me. So why the fuck would I care about if they release a shit game? Obviously it sucks if these people from this studio lose their job, but at the same time, like, that's not my responsibility. The game sucks. Like, make a better game.
Make a better game.
And the thing is
Why did you think you
there
could
are
bring
talented people who work
mediocre to our market? Why did you think you could bring mediocre to the video game market? Not way up in the greats. No, you can't bring mediocre to the greats. You can't do that.
You receive loot, ruined leather scraps.
We will cancel you.
Yeah, they absolutely would have put their all into making the
Discovered
game.
Crystal Lake. 65 experience gained.
This is not on them. That's not their responsibility. They have a job.
Aggro.
Like a street sweeper has a job. It's not the street sweeper's fault if the fucking council doesn't give them enough money to cover all the streets, is it? Like, whoever was making decisions on this game fucked it up, and it's no one's responsibility but that company. That's it. Like, this idea that consumers are supposed to be like, oh, you know, it's okay, they're there. The only thing I agree with is that people shouldn't be going after the devs as individuals and humans, because why would you do that? It's nothing to do with them most of the time. Unless you have evidence that, like, one person made all these decisions and made the game bad. Like, why are you even trying to speak at these people or talk about them? It makes no sense. But yeah, real analysis definitely does get drowned out, but it does exist. These are not the ugliest character designs you've ever seen Reddit get a grip. I mean, we looked at that earlier. It's a pretty fucking ugly character design. You can understand why this is a more comfortable, rhetorical lane than reckoning with the more complex reality of a volatile gaming landscape, where quality is not the sole predicator of success. Kind of is, though, isn't it? It kind of is. Where multi-billion-dollar institutions like Sony now often struggle to be heard. Mate, you've just posted in this article that the game's crazy popular. Like, not crazy popular, sorry, that everyone's talking about it. And that it's, like, huge, right? When a struggling game has a high enough profile, as Concord does, everyone knows about Concord now. They've not struggled to have their voice heard. Everyone's heard it. Everyone's seen this game and they've decided they don't want to play it. They've not struggled. They're screaming very loudly and it's obnoxious. Like, I don't know where this comes from. Where it's difficult to make predictions. You could have... Maybe I'm doing that thing you was talking about earlier, like, oh, you know, I just want to be right. You could predict this was going to fail. You could. And where it often feels like years of work can be swept away by small miscalculations and rapid changes in taste. Nothing rapid has changed about this genre, by the way. Multiple of these games have released and failed because there's not that big of an audience that want them, and the people that are wanting these games just play Overwatch, and will probably now play Valorant, and will probably now also play Deadlock. There's not that many. There's just not that much space for a game that isn't doing what they're doing, but better. And this game doesn't do what they do. This game is like a hybrid between a very serious competitive game like Counter-Strike and something like Overwatch, but it doesn't get either of those things well. It doesn't walk the line well at all. It feels bad. It looks bad. And that's just kind of how it is. I completely reject the premise that this is like an issue. I do think
receive
it's an
loot,
issue
light letter.
that people go after developers and whatever else, but that's the only thing I think is a problem. Grave dancing on games made by corporate companies that are just basically looking to milk
Aggro.
gamers with live service slop that nobody cares about. That's not a problem. Like, hold them accountable. They made a shit game. When it fails, tell them that it's their fault that the shit game failed, because it fucking is. That's real life. But there we go. I think that's it. I think I'll edit this video and then go to bed because it's 2 a.m. Probably play a little bit of RuneScape first, you know. Gotta do my farming runs. But yeah, thanks for watching. As always, if you enjoyed,
You receive
or
loot.
if you
Snap
like
spider limb.
waifu corpse,
You receive
like
loot.
this one,
Small spider
beautiful
LEDS2.
waifu corp, or you like drinks that you put in powder. No, what are you fucking saying to me? It's 2 a.m. Powder that you put in water and you shake it and you drink it and it tastes really good. There's loads and loads of different flavors. If you like that, go to the link in the video description, buy GamerSups, use my code, you'll get a discount, I'll get a kickback, you save money, I earn money, win-win. Yeah, thanks for watching. Check out my socials, suggest me content on Twitter, DMs are open, Discord, things like that. See you next time, peace. So this is part 3 of the Caspian Chronicles video, where we're going through the audio recording that happened.
Azura.
Communism makes no sense at all, totally opposed to human nature. It never works. It always evolves into dictatorship. It creates a power vacuum when you say, hey, there's no structure of power
Aggro.
here, right? We're all equal. It's a flat line. One guy usually gets up because that's human nature and goes, I don't think so. I think if you're going to leave a power vacuum, I'm going to take that power vacuum. Corporatism hates competition. It wants monopoly and oligopoly power. Whereas capitalism loves competition and wants the free markets. When mainstream media has you hooked, you got no hope because you don't have the right information. You have propaganda, you have marketing, you don't have real news. When you're in the online world, it's chaotic.
Receive loot.
And
Force spider
don't get
money.
me wrong, it's got plenty of downsides, right? But within that chaos, the truth begins to emerge. Trump is a massive risk because of all the things we
Discovered
talked
the
about
Macrio
earlier.
vineyards. 55
But
experience gained.
there is a percentage chance that he's such a wild card that he overturns the whole
Aggro.
system. And that is why the establishment is a little scared of him.
The following is a conversation with Cenk, a progressive political commentator and host of the Young Turks. As I've said before, I will speak with everyone, including on the left and the right of the political spectrum, always in good faith with empathy, rigor, and backbone. Sometimes I fail. Sometimes I say stupid, inaccurate, ineloquent things, and I frequently change my mind as I'm learning and thinking about the world. For all this, I often get attacked, sometimes fairly, sometimes not. But just know that I'm aware when I fall short, and I will keep trying to do better. I
You're
love you all.
okay. You're okay, Lex.
This is the Lex Friedman podcast.
You're doing
To support
fine.
it, please check out
You're
our
doing
sponsors
well.
in the description. And now, dear friends,
Aggro.
here's Cenk Uygur. You wrote a book,
Yeah.
a manifesto that outlines the progressive vision for America. So, the big question, what are some defining ideas of progressivism?
Yes. So in order to do that, Lex, we got to talk about where we are in the political spectrum. And in fact, there's two different spectrums now. People often think of left, right, and that's true. That exists. But layered on top of that is now
Aggro.
populist versus establishment. So I'm center left on the left-right spectrum, but I'm all the way on the populist end of the second spectrum. So where does progressivism lie within that? Well, I would argue that it's exactly in those places. It's populist, and it's on the left, but it is not far left. So far left is a different animal. and we could talk about that in a little bit.
Aggro.
So, in terms of what makes a progressive, so expand the circle of liberty, and justice for all, and equality of opportunity. Now, people will say, well, that seems pretty broad and all-American, but is it? Think about it. So, expand the circle of liberty. Everybody's in favor of that, right? No, absolutely not.
You receive light
So,
letter.
certainly the King of England was not in favor of expanding the circle of liberty, and the Founding Fathers said, we're going to expand it. And they expanded it to propertied white men. And then progressives have been, they're progressives because they expanded the circle of liberty. They then, from then on, as we were perfecting the Union, progressives always say expand it further, include women, include people without property, include all races, and at every turn, conservatives fight against it. So that doesn't mean if you're a conservative today, you don't want to include women or minorities, etc. But today you would say, for example, well, I don't want to expand the circle of liberty to, for example, undocumented immigrants. And maybe you're right about that, and we could have that discussion in terms of a specific philosophy. And I don't believe that undocumented immigrants should immediately be citizens or anything along those lines. But I do believe in expanding liberty overall. And the contours of that are what's interesting. And then you say justice for all. Everybody's for justice. No, right now, marijuana possession is still illegal in a lot of parts of the country. Now, a lot of right-wingers and left-wingers agree that it should be legal. But for my entire lifetime, black people have been arrested at about 3.7 times the rate of white people. And the entire country has been fine with it. So
I'm not okay with it. I've never been okay with it.
White people, black people smoke marijuana at the same rate. Black people get arrested about 4 times the rate. That is an injustice that an enormous percentage of the country was comfortable with. Well, progressives aren't comfortable with it. We want justice for all. So the equality of opportunity is an interesting one because the far left will say, so at least some portions of them will say equality of results, right? So progressives just want a fair chance. So free college education, but afterwards you don't get to have exact same results as either the wealthiest person, or we're not all going to be equal. We don't have equal talents, skills, abilities, etc.
There's a lot of questions I can ask there. So on the circle of liberty, yes, so expanding the number of people whose freedoms are protected. But what about the magnitude of freedom for each individual person? So expanding the freedom of the individual and protecting the freedoms of the individual. It seems like progressives are more willing to expand the size of government, where government can do all kinds of regulation, all kinds of controls on the individual.
So, Lex, what we're probably going to talk about a lot today is balance. And so a lot of people think, oh, I'm on the right, I'm on the left. And that comes with a certain preset ideology. So the right is always correct, the left is always correct. So there's 2 problems with that. Number one, how could you possibly believe in a preset ideology if you're an independent thinker? It's literally, by definition, not possible. If you say, I lent my brain to an ideology that was created 80 years ago, or 8 years ago, or 800 years ago, and I'm not going to change it, you're saying, I don't think for myself. I bought into a culture, and by the way, there's a lot of different forms of culture you could buy into. Religion, politics, sometimes racial, etc. So that's why you need actually balance. The second reason you need balance, other than independent thought, is because the answer is almost never black and white. And that gets into a really interesting nuance, because mainstream media, in my opinion, is the matrix. And its job is to delude you into thinking corporate rule is great for you, and we should never change it, and the status quo is wonderful. So they have created a false middle. What mainstream media calls moderate is actually, in my opinion, extremist corporate ideology. So, for example, they'll say Joe Manchin is a moderate. None of his positions are moderate, other than potentially gun control in West Virginia. He's not for gun control. The people of West Virginia are not for gun control, generally speaking. So, and he uses that, and they usually have these shiny objects where they're like, you see this? I'm a moderate because of guns. Or I'm a moderate because I'm a Democrat from West Virginia. But wait, let's look at your positions. You're against paid family leave. That polls at 84%. So you're a radical corporatist who say that women should be forced back into work the day after they have birth. You're against a higher minimum wage. You're for every corporate position, and they all poll at 33% or less. So Joe Manchin is not at all a moderate, and this applies to almost every corporate Republican and every corporate Democrat. They're all extremists in supporting what I call corporatism. So you have to get to a balance in order to get to the right answer.
So that's an interesting distinction here. So you're actually, as far as I understand, pro-capitalism,
Yes.
which is an interesting place to be. That's the thing that probably makes you center left and then still populist. You're full of beautiful contradictions, let's say this, which will be great to untangle. But what's the difference between corporatism and capitalism? Is there a difference?
So I really believe in capitalism. I don't think that there's really a second choice. Where it gets
So do
super
I.
interesting is the
You receive
distinction
chip
between
forecast.
capitalism and socialism, because that's not at all as clear
Sharing?
as people think it is. And people often say socialism and communism as synonyms when they're not synonyms, right? And so I view it as there's basically four distinct areas. It's obviously a spectrum. Everything is a spectrum, right? On one end, you have communism on the left, and on the other end, you have corporatism on the right, okay? And I would argue that capitalism is in the middle. And so
You receive loot. Chunk of
communism, we know,
You receive loot.
state
Light letter.
owns all property. You're not allowed to have private property. So I will piss off a lot of people in this show. And so I'm asking for their patience. Please hear me out. And because don't worry, I'm going to piss off the other side too. Okay? So communism makes
Aggro.
no sense at all. Totally opposed to human nature. It never works. It always evolves into dictatorship because it is not built for human nature. We're never going to act like that.
You
It's
receive
not
it.
in our
Ruin letters
DNA. You could try to wish it into existence, and they have, and it never works. And it's because once you have almost
Aggro.
no rules in terms of, we're all equal, and even though communism eventually winds up having an enormous amount of rules, right? It creates a power vacuum when you say, hey, there's no structure of
You receive
power
loot.
here,
Broken
right?
forecast.
We're all equal. It's a flat
You
line.
receive loot. Light leather.
One guy usually gets up because that's human nature and goes, I don't think so. I think if you're going to leave a power vacuum, I'm going to take that power vacuum.
That's actually a really interesting way to put it, because when everyone is equal, nobody is in power, and human nature is such that there's a will to power. So when you create a power vacuum, somebody's going to fill it. So the alternative is to have people in power, but there's a balance of power, and then there's like a democratic system that elects the people in power and keeps churning and rotating who's in
That
power.
is exactly it, Lex. You got it exactly right, in my opinion. Okay? So that's why communism never works and can never work. So it's an idea of like, we're all going to work as hard as we possibly can and take only what we need. Where? When has that ever happened in the history of humanity, right? We're just not built that way. So, okay, we can get into that debate with my friends on the left, etc. Now, corporatism is just as extreme and just as dangerous, and that is basically what we have in America now. What we have in America now, and this is another giant trick that the Matrix played on everybody, that they did a shell game, and all of a sudden extreme corporatists like Manchin and almost every Republican in the Senate are moderates. Oh my God, Mitch McConnell all of a sudden is a moderate, and
Yeah, right.
etc. As long as you're not a populist. Populists are never moderate, okay? But if you love corporations and corporate tax cuts and everything in favor of corporations, you're magically called a moderate when you actually, according to the polling, have super extreme positions that the American people hate. And by the way, that's part of the reason for the
Aggro.
rise of Trump. We can come back to that, okay?
You
But the
receive loot.
second
Ruin
shell
letters
game
caps.
is
Aggro.
taking out capitalism, putting in corporatism, but still calling it capitalism. Okay, so what is corporatism? It is when corporations slowly take over the system and create monopoly and oligopoly power. So that snuffs out
You receive loot. Chunk of
equality of opportunity. So how do they do that? When people say
You
the
receive loot. Ruin letters
system
scraps.
is rigged, they oftentimes can't explain it that well. And then mainstream media goes, oh, you sound conspiratorial. Rigged, yeah, I wonder how. Yeah, super easy to explain it. Here's one of dozens of examples. Carried interest loophole. So that is for hedge funds, private
receive
equity,
ruin letters scraps.
the top people on Wall Street. That's part of their income. They get 2 and 20, right? So 2% is a flat fee no matter what happens to the fund, and 20% of the profits of the fund
Aggro.
goes back to the people who invested it. It's not their money. It's not their investment. What they're getting is actually just income. It should be taxed at the highest rate. But it's because of this loophole, it's taxed at a much lower rate, at around 20%. So do you know at what income level you go above 20% if you're a regular Joe? It's at $84,000 a year. So these billionaires are getting the same tax rate as people making $84,000 a year.
Yup.
It's unbelievably unfair. And that's corporatism taking over and starting to rig the rules. I'm going to pay less taxes. You're going to pay more taxes. Okay. So again, I can give you dozens of those examples. So, and mergers so that they get to oligopoly power. That's how you rig a system, lowering the corporate tax rates, making sure that there is no real minimum wage, making sure there's no universal health care. We all become indentured servants of corporations. They take away power from the average guy, give it to the most powerful people in the world. So, but the most important distinction, Lex, is that corporatism hates competition. It wants monopoly and oligopoly power. Whereas capitalism loves competition and wants the free markets. And I remember, we started Young Turks back in 2002. So we've been around for 22 years, longest running daily show on the internet ever. And so we were pre-Iraq War, and the Iraq War starts, and Dick Cheney starts handing out no-bid contracts. I'm like, what part of capitalism is a no-bid contract? You can't negotiate drug prices. That's the most anti-free market thing I have ever heard. It's almost like communism for corporations. They get everything, you get nothing, right? So it's preposterous, it's awful, and it kills the free markets, and it's killing this country. And it is the main ideology and religion of the establishment.
Are all companies built the same here? So when you say corporatism, it seems like, just looking here at the list of by industry lobbyists, it seems like there are certain industries that are worse offenders than others, like pharmaceuticals, like insurance, oil and gas.
Yeah.
So it seems to me it feels wrong to just throw all companies into the same bucket of like they're all guilty.
No, they're not all guilty. So let's make a bunch of distinctions here. So first of all, are they quote unquote guilty? No, they're doing something that is logical and natural, right? So if you're a company, do you want to pay higher taxes or lower taxes? Of course you want to pay lower taxes, right? Do you want to have higher employee costs or lower employee costs? Of course you want lower employee costs, right? So, but the government needs to understand that and protect us from that power that they are going to exercise to get to those results. And if you think free markets is there is no government, you read it wrong. Go back and reread Adam Smith. He says you must protect against monopoly power. If you do not protect against monopoly power, you will have no free markets. And he's absolutely right. So, second distinction is between small business and big business. That's why Republicans will always be like, oh, we're doing this for small business. That's why we got the biggest oil companies in the world, $30 billion in subsidies. What happened to small business, right? So I run a small business, and so if people were to say like, hey, maybe there should be exemptions for some of the regulations if your company has less than 5 employees, 10 employees, 50 employees, etc. There's some logic in that because businesses have different stages of growth and they have different interests and different needs in those stages of growth. And we want to facilitate small business growth because that's great for the economy, that's great for markets, freedom, etc. But the bigger corporations, even there's a third distinction. It isn't that there are certain industries that are worse. There's just that there are industries that are better at lobbying. So anyone who, like right now, #1 donor in Washington, a lot of people make a mistake. They think it's APAC or they think it's the oil companies or the banks. No, it's Big Pharma, okay? And who has the most power in this country? Big Pharma. So we can't even negotiate the drug prices. I mean, look, guys, think about it this way. That's like saying, okay, here's a bottle of water. And normally in the free market, that would cost about $1, right? And in the for Medicare, the drug companies come in and go, no, I'm not charging $1 for that water. I'm charging $100.
Aggro.
And the government has to say, yes, sir, thank you, sir. Of course, sir, we'll pay $100. That's why I compare it to communism, because I can't imagine anything more diametrically opposed to
You
the free
receive loot.
market
Ruined
than
letter scraps.
you, the consumer, have to pay whatever the hell a corporation charges. That's insanity, let alone the patents, let alone the fact that the American people pay for the research and then they make billions of dollars off of it and we get nothing
receive
but
loot.
robbed
Ruined
by
letter
them.
scraps.
So it's about lobby power. Oil companies have huge lobby
You receive
power.
loot.
Defense
White letter.
contractors have huge lobby power. It's not that they're more evil. It's just that they have
Aggro.
figured out the game better, and they have basically taken the influence they need to capture the market, capture the government, and snuff out all competition,
Well,
or a
okay.
lot of competition.
Figured out the game better. So I think a lot of companies are good at winning the right way.
You receive loot.
By
White letter.
building better products, by making people happier with the work they're doing, and winning at the game of capitalism. And then there's
Aggro.
other companies that win at the game of lobbying. And I just want to sort of draw that distinction because I think it's a small subset of companies that are playing the game of
You receive loot. White letter.
lobbying. It's like big pharma.
So, Lex, first of all, you have to set rules for what makes sense, not, oh, I don't
You're
like
back.
this industry or I don't like this company.
I'm gonna pause it. Sorry, I'm gonna get some ice. Oh. My cushion constantly fucking falls. It's so... Okay, just turned off some lights and put my dishes away and stuff. Got an olive.
Hey, this company's not doing that much lobbying at this point. They will later when they realize what's going on. So, for example, in my opinion, APAC has totally bought almost all of Congress. And so now other countries are going to wake up and go, wait, you could just buy the American government?
Aggro.
So APAC is going to spend about $100 million in this cycle, and then they're getting $26 billion back. So every country in the world is soon going to realize, oh, take American citizens that live there, get them a tremendous amount of money,
receive loot.
and
Ruined
just
letter
buy
scraps.
the U.S. government, right? So but for corporations, they've already realized that on a massive scale, right?
Aggro.
So, for example, in the two industries you gave, automotive. So in New Jersey, about a decade ago or so, one of the most powerful lobbies is car dealerships. So at the national level, you got pharma and you've got defense contractors, etc. At the local
You receive
level,
loot. Ruined
guys
letter
who have
scraps.
huge power. Number one is utilities. Number two is real estate.
Aggro.
And then car dealerships are hilariously among the top, right? Because it's local businesses that are, financing the politicians at the local level. So they passed a law saying that you have to sell through dealerships. But Tesla doesn't sell through dealerships, and it was intended to bully, intimidate,
broken
and
vortex.
push out Tesla out of the market.
You receive loot.
They then
Chunk
did that in a number of different states throughout the
receive loot.
country.
Ruined leather scraps.
So does that make any sense in a
receive loot. Ruined
democracy?
leather
Of
scraps.
course not. Why do you have to sell your product through a specific vehicle or medium? You can sell it any way you like. That's the most anti-free market thing possible. Why? It was just total utter
Aggro.
corruption. But it's perfectly legal. The Supreme Court legalized bribery. So then what happened in that case? So then Elon came in and gave campaign contributions and reversed it. So now we're in a battle where it's an open auction, right? Different companies are buying different politicians,
receive loot. Light leather.
and then they're pretending to have debates about principles and ideas, etc. So now let's look at tech. In the beginning,
Aggro.
Facebook was not spending any money in politics, or almost any money in politics. So what happens? They're getting
Pull up my
hammered.
glass.
They get pulled into congressional hearings, and Facebook's got fake news, and oh my God, all these trouble.
You receive loot. Ruined leather scraps.
From Facebook, then Facebook does the logical thing. Oh, it turns out I need to grease these sons of bitches. Okay, so then they hire a whole bunch of Republican consultants. They go grease all the Republicans and most of the corporate Democrats. And then all of a sudden, we're no longer talking about Facebook at all, and Facebook are angels. And now we've turned our attention to who? Facebook's top competitor, TikTok. Funny how that works. Okay. And by the way, then Donald Trump goes, TikTok's big dangerous company. They're working with China. Okay. And then Jeff Yazd comes in on this cycle, part owner of TikTok, and he doesn't want TikTok banished, of course, right? So he gives Trump a couple of $1 million. Trump turns around the next day and goes, we love TikTok. TikTok's a good company, right?
So that's a big contributor to influencing what politicians say and what they think. But it's not the entire thing, right?
No, it is.
You
It's
receive loot. Broken
98%.
vortex.
I'll go
Yeah,
on
I
mainstream
would say
media,
so.
and they'll
You
be like,
receive
oh, I
loot.
see
Chunk
what
of
you're
money.
saying. I can see how that influences
receive loot.
politicians
Light
about 10%. I'm like, no, it's 98%. So, and even a lot of good people think it's 50-50. They have principles and they have money. No, they have money and this smidge of principles. That's why I wanted to clarify 98 too.
Okay, so how do we fix it? So it's really
Wigglesworth
interesting
says,
and nice
57
that you're
euros light fingers up.
pro-capitalism and anti-corporatism. So how do we create a system where the free market can rule, where capitalism can rule? We can have these vibrant flourishing of all these companies competing against each other and creating awesome stuff.
Yeah, so in the book I call it democratic capitalism as opposed to Bernie's democratic
You create
socialism.
light
Right?
letter.
We can get into that distinction in a minute. But so
You create
as
light letter.
Adam Smith said, and anyone who studies capitalism knows,
You
you
create
need the
light letter.
government to protect the market as well as the people. Because
You
why do
create
we have
light letter.
cops? Because if we don't have cops, somebody's going to go, well, I like Lex's equipment. Why don't I just
create
go into his
light
house
letter.
and take it, right? So you need the cops to protect you, and that's the government. So people
create
say, oh, I
light letter.
hate big government. Do you? Right? It depends, right? If your house is getting robbed, all of a sudden you
create
like the
light letter.
government. But you also need cops on Wall Street. Because if you allow insider trading, the powerful are going to rob you blind, and the little guy's going to get screwed. So that's this easy example. And so if you don't have those cops, the bad guys are going to take over. They're going to set the rules, rig the rules in their favor. So that's why you need regulation. And so the Republicans on purpose made regulation a dirty word. They're like, oh, all regulation is bad. And then sometimes on the left, people fall for the trap of all regulation is good. A guy I like has a great analogy on this, Matt Stoller. He's one of the original, I would argue, progressives. And there's about 4 of us. I'm sure there's more, but that have stayed true to the original meaning of progressivism and populism.
I'm progressive.
Me, Matt Stoller, David Sirota, Ryan Grimm. Okay. And they used to be in that original blogger group. there was guys like Glenn Greenwald and other interesting cats, right? But they went in different directions. So Matt has a great line. He says, if somebody comes up to you and says, how big a pipe do you want? There is no answer for that. It depends on the job, doesn't it? Right? What are we doing? What are we building? I'm going to tell you the size of the pipe depending on the project. So when people say, are you in favor of regulation or against it? That's an absurd question. Of course you need regulation. It just means laws, right? So don't kill your neighbor is a regulation, right? So my idea is a simple one, and one we're going to keep coming back to: balance. So when my dad was a small business owner in New Jersey, and they inspected the elevators 6 times a year,
Aggro.
that was over-regulation. And I said to my dad, so should they not inspect it at all? I'm a young kid growing up. And he said, no. You got to inspect it at least twice a year. I said, why? He said, because in Turkey, sometimes they don't inspect it, and then the elevator falls. Okay? So bounds of reason, correct regulation to protect the markets and to protect the American people.
Yeah, but finding the right level of regulation, especially in, for example, in tech, something I'm much more familiar with, is very difficult because people in Congress are living in the 20th century before the internet was invented. So, like, how are they supposed to come up with regulations? That's the idea of the free market, is you should be able to sort of compete. The market regulates. And then the government can step in and protect the market from forming monopolies, for example, which is easier to do.
Yeah, but that's a form of regulation.
Right. But then there's like more checking the elevator twice a year. That's a more sort of specific watching, micromanaging.
So, Lex, here's the deal. There's no way around the laws are made by politicians. Okay? So you can't give up then and go, oh, it's a bunch of schmucks. I think most politicians are just servants for the donor class. All right? The media makes it sound like they're the best of us. Oh, they deserve a lot of honor and respect, and they kiss their ass, etc. I think generally speaking, they're usually the worst of us, especially in this corporatist structure, right? Because they're the guys who their number one talent is, yes, sir, no, sir. What would you like me to do with your donor money, sir? Absolutely, I'll serve you completely, or 98%, right? So in this structure, the politicians are the worst of us. But at some point, you need somebody elected to be your representative to do democratic capitalism so that you have capitalism, but it's checked by the government on behalf of the people. It's the people that are saying, these are the rules of the land, and you have to abide by them. So, how do you get to the best possible answer? Which is related to an earlier question you asked, Lex, which is the number one thing you have to do is get big money out of politics. Everything else is near impossible as long as we are drowned in money, and whoever has more money wins. And by the way, when it comes to legislation, again, that's true about 98% of the time. Like, we predict things ahead of time. People are like, wow, how did you know that bill wasn't going to pass or was going to pass? It's the easiest thing in the world. And we literally teach our audience on the Young Turks. Watch, you'll be able to see for yourself. And now our members comment in, they do these predictions, they're almost always right? Because it's so simple, follow the money. So if you get big money out of politics, and I can explain how to do that in a sec, then you're at a place where you got your best shot at honest representatives that are going to try their best to get to the right answer. Are they going to get to the right answer out of the gate? Usually not. So they pass a law, there's something.
Yeah, I think America has lost this idea of commonwealth where we're only as strong as our weakest link. And so we must foster the people by creating a system that fosters them better than this government is doing. Like, if they have traffic complaints, we have a traffic bureau who just works all day trying to make traffic fucking perfect so everybody can get home in half an hour, right? And then they end up running AI trying to figure out how to do traffic better and stuff like that. If there's a problem with drug addiction, then throw a bunch of care at it. Just fix the problem. And and it's hard. It seems like if you're not the buyer or the donor or the seller, if you're just the public, then you're the last person whose interests are actually taken care of. Like we heard about how the army screwed guns for our boys in Vietnam and messed up the M16. And greed and avarice and just, like politics and bureaucracy are what led to that. And if we had a system in place that was just like, well, the people are always first and they get this because this and this. And then they go and if there's a problem, it's just solved pretty much right away. But instead we have this like sounding board where we just yell at each other, I think. It's sort of weird. It's like
Aggro.
I don't know. It's hard to describe.
Wrong with the law. They then fix that part. It's a pendulum. You don't want it to swing too wildly, but you do need a little bit of oscillation in that pendulum to get to the right balance.
By the way, I was listening to Joe Biden from when he was like 30 years old, the speeches. He was eloquent as hell. It's fun to listen to, actually. And he has a speech he gives, or just maybe a conversation in Congress, I'm not sure where he talks about how corrupt the whole system is. Yeah. And he's really honest and like fun. And that Joe Biden is great, by the way. That guy, I mean, age sucks. People get older. But he was talking quite honestly about like having to suck up to all these rich people, and that he couldn't really suck up to the really rich people.
Aggro.
They said, come back to us 10 years later when you're like more integrated into the system. But he was really honest about it. He's saying that's how it is. That's what we have to do, and that really sucks that that's what we have to do.
Yeah. So we did a video on our TikTok channel, then and now, of Joe Biden. This is when I was trying to push Biden out.
We should say you're one of the people early on saying Biden needs to step down.
Aggro.
Yeah, I started about a year ago because I was positive that Biden had a 0% chance of winning, and it turned out. By the way, 2 days before he dropped out, his inside advisors inside the White House said, "Yeah, near 0% chance of winning." So we were right all along.
You got a lot of criticism.
You
for
received
that,
loot.
by the way.
Forced spider wedding.
Yeah, we can come back to that. Yes, I did, and which makes it Tuesday for me. I get a lot of criticism for everything. And by the way, Democratic Party,
Aggro.
you're welcome. But Biden's a really interesting example. I'm really glad you brought it up. So the video on TikTok was just showing Biden then, Biden now, and you're right, Biden was so dynamic. When you see how dynamic he was, we did like side by side, right? And then you see him now going, you can barely finish. Anyways, right? You're like, oh, that's not the same guy. I get it, right? So, and that got like 5 million views because it resonates. They're like, yeah, of course, right? But when he first started, to the point you were making, Lex, in fact, I know because I talked to him about this, his very first bill was anti-corruption. Why? Because at that point, everything changes in 1976 and 78. It's Supreme Court decisions that basically legalized bribery. But remember, Biden is ancient, so he's coming into politics at a time when money has not yet drowned politics. And in fact, the American population is super pissed about the fact that it's begun. They don't like corruption. So early Biden, because he's reading the room, is very anti-corruption. And the first bill he proposes is to get money out of politics. Okay? But as Biden goes on for his epic 200-year career in Washington, he starts to get not more conservative, more corporate, because he's just taking more and more money. By the middle of his career, he has a nickname, the senator from MBNA. Okay? MBNA was a credit card company based in Delaware. And the reason he had that nickname is because there isn't anything Joe Biden wouldn't have done for credit card companies and corporations based in Delaware, which are almost all corporations. Okay? So he became the most corporate senator in the country, and hence the most beloved by corporate media. And corporate media has protected him his entire career until about a month ago. So, for example, in the primaries, both in 2020 and 2024, if you said the senator from MBNA, I guarantee you almost no one in the audience has heard of it. If you heard of it, good job. You know politics really well, okay? But the reason you didn't hear of it is because the mainstream media wouldn't say that's outrageous of Joe Biden to be such a corporate stooge. They'd say that's outrageous of you to point out something that's true and something we reported on earlier. Okay, and so they protected him at all costs. Now, finally, when you
Create
get to
light
this
letter.
version of Joe Biden,
Whoops says, anyone for hogger.
he can't talk, he can't walk. He bears no resemblance to the young guy who came in saying that money in politics was a problem. Now he's saying money in politics is the solution. And in 2020, he said, "Well, I can raise more money than Bernie.
Aggro.
I can kiss corporate ass better than Bernie. I'm the biggest corporate ass kisser in the world, so I'm going to raise $1 billion, and you need to support me." Now, of course, he doesn't say it in those words, but that was the message to the establishment. And Buttigieg, Klobuchar, Obama, Clyburn, everybody goes, "Oh, that's
Snap
right.
spider limb.
Oh, Biden, 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 Biden,
receive loot.
not
Forest spider
Bernie."
wedding.
I don't know that there's anybody in the country who instinctually dislikes Bernie more than Barack Obama.
Oh, that's an interesting. I'm not taking that tangent at this moment. Let's, because you mentioned mainstream media. What's the motivation for mainstream media to be corporatist also?
So, first of all, they're giant corporations. So they're all multi-billion-dollar corporations. In the old days, we had an incredible number of media outlets. So you go to San Francisco, there'd be at least 2 papers, and there'd be a paper boy, and I'm going all the way back, paper boy on each corner, and they're competing with one another. Literally, they'd be catty corner, right? And one guy's going, "Oh, here are all this details." They're trying to get an audience. They're trying to get people interested. So they're populist, they're interesting, they're muckrakers, they're challenging the government. Fast forward to now,
You
or
have learned a new ability.
not now,
Sinister
but
strike. Rank 2.
about a decade ago, 5 years ago, in that ballpark, now there's only 6 giant media corporations left, and it's an oligopoly, right? And they're all multi-billion-dollar corporations. They all want tax cuts. Half of them are also, especially about 20 years ago during the Iraq War, half of them are defense contractors. So they're just using the news as marketing to start wars like the Iraq War. And then GE, which owned MSNBC, makes a tremendous amount of money. So much more money from war than it does from media, that media is a good marketing spend for these corporations. Now, that's part of it, that they
Let me shut my
themselves
door.
want the same exact thing as the rest of corporations do for corporate rule: lower tax cuts, deregulation so they can merge, etc. But the second part of it is arguably even more important. So where does all that money in politics go? So, for example, in 2022, it's just a midterm election, no presidential, should be lower spending. A ridiculous $17 billion are spent, okay, on the election cycle. Where does the $17 billion go? Almost all of it goes into corporate media, mainstream media, television, newspapers, radio. They're buying ads like nuts. So we have a reporter at TYT, David Schuster. He used to work at MSNBC, Fox News, etc. And David once did a piece about money in politics at a local NBC news station, and his editor or GM spiked the story. And David goes into his office and asks him, "So why? This story is true. It's a huge part of politics. If we're going to report on this issue, we got to tell you what's actually happening." So he says, "David, come here." He puts his arm around his shoulders, takes him to the big newsroom, and he goes, "You see all this? Money in politics paid for that."
Aggro.
That's really fascinating. So, big corporations are giving money to politicians through different channels, and then the politicians are spending that money on mainstream media. And so there's a vicious cycle
Incestuous,
where
yeah.
it's in the interest of the mainstream media not to criticize the
Aggro.
very corporations that are feeding that cycle. It's
So-
not actually direct. It's not like corporations are, because I was thinking one of the ways is direct advertisement. Like pharmaceuticals obviously advertise a lot on mainstream media, but there's also indirect, which is like giving the politicians money, or super PACs, and the super PACs and then spend money on the.
That's why mainstream media never talks about the number one factor in politics, which is money. Like we all know, I mean, as we talked about earlier, we see it with our own eyes. Open auction, any country, any company, anybody that has money, the politicians will now literally say, "I am now working for this guy," as Trump says, because he gave me a strong endorsement, which means a lot of money, right? And the press never covers it, almost never, right? So you're telling me you're doing an article on the infrastructure build or Build Back Better, etc., and you're not going to mention the enormous amount of money that every lobbyist spent on that bill? That's absurd. That's absurd. That's 98% of the ball game. And the reason they hide the ball is because they don't want you to know this whole thing is based on the money that they are receiving. And by the way, that one more thing about that, Lex, it's that the ads themselves actually they work, and they work pretty
Receive
well.
Ruined leather scraps.
But that's not the main reason you spend money on ads. You spend the money in ads to get friendly coverage from the content, from the free media that you're getting from that same outlet. And so since every newspaper and every news television station and network knows that the Democratic Party and the Republican Party are their top clients, they're going to get billions of dollars from them. They never really criticize the Republican and Democratic Party. On the other hand, if you're an outsider, they'll rip your face off.
That's also really interesting. So if you're an advertiser, if you're big pharma and you're advertising, it's not that the advertisement works. It's that the hosts are too afraid. Not like explicitly, just even implicitly. They're self-censoring. They're not going to have any guests that are like
You receive loot.
controversial anti-big pharma,
You
or
would
they're
nine
not
copper.
going to make any jokes about big
Cobalt
pharma. They're
Tunnel
not
says,
going to
"You
make
know, take Kendall."
that continues. That's
Yeah.
really interesting.
Sometimes it's super direct. When I was a host on MSNBC, I had a company that I was criticizing in my script, and management looked at it. And by the way, I used to go off prompter a lot, and it drove me crazy. Not because I wasn't good at
You
it.
need 11 copper.
I think my ratings went up whenever I went off prompter, but because they couldn't pre-approve the script. And what do they want to pre-approve? Hey, are you going to criticize one of our sponsors, one of our advertisers, etc.? So we had a giant fight over it, and the compromise was I moved them lower in the script, but kept them in the story, right? So sometimes it's super direct like that, but way more often, it's implicit, it's indirect. You don't have to say it,
You
right?
receive loot. Rush
So
covered blunderbuss.
I give you a
lose 5 copper.
spectacular example of it so that you get a sense of how it works implicitly. So since GE is a giant defense contractor, they own MSNBC at the time of the Iraq War. They fired everyone who was against the Iraq War on air. So Phil Donahue, Jesse Ventura, Ashley Banfield.
You
But
lose 7
Ashley
copper.
Banfield, they did something different with, okay? She was a rising star at the time. She goes and gives a speech in Kansas. Not really even having a policy position, but just talking about the actual cause of this Iraq War and how we should be really careful. They hate that. So they take their rising star and they take her off there, okay? And she goes, okay, good. Let me out of my contract. It's okay, I'll go. Because she was such a star at that time, she could have easily gotten somewhere else. And they go, no, we're not going to let you out of your contract.
You lose 1 copper.
Why not? You're going to pay me to do nothing? Yeah. Not only that, we're moving your office. Where are you moving it to? They literally moved it into a closet. Okay. And they made sure that everybody in the building saw her getting taken off the air and moved into a closet. The closet is the memo, right? That's the memo to the whole building. You better shut up and do as you're told. Okay? So that way I don't have to tell you and get myself in trouble. It's super obvious. There are guardrails here. You are not allowed to go beyond acceptable thought. And acceptable thought is our sponsors are great, politicians are great, the powerful are great.
So how do we begin to fix that? And what exactly are we fixing? Is it the influence of the lobbyists, the influence of it feels like there's
Skycat.live says, "Oh, I don't sorry." Mika says,
companies
KK.
have found different ways
Mika
to
says,
achieve
SS.
influence, right? So how do we get money out of politics?
So it's very difficult but doable, and we will do it. So, but in order to do it, the populist left and the populist right have to unite. Because, and that, by the way, that is why we have the culture wars.
That's why you're voting for Trump.
No chance. Okay, so we can get into that in a minute. So, the culture wars are meant to divide us. If we get united, we have enough leverage and power to be able to do it. But you can't do it through a normal bill, because if you do it in a bill, the whole point of capturing the Supreme Court was to make sure that they could kill any piece of legislation that would protect the American people.
You're saying the Supreme Court is also captured by this?
Oh, 100%. So, okay. So let me explain. Again, people, for the uninitiated, they think, oh, that sounds conspiratorial. Well, in this case, that's actually somewhat true, because people now know about this is the Powell memo, right? The most infamous political memo in history. Lewis Powell writes a memo for the Chamber of Commerce in 1971 that's basically a blueprint for how the Chamber of Commerce can take over the government. And Lewis Powell explains one of the most important things you have to do is take over the media. But even more important than that is taking over the Supreme Court.
Aggro.
Because the Supreme Court is the ultimate arbiter of what is allowed and not allowed. And he says, we need, quote, activist judges to help business interests on the court, okay? And then Nixon reads the memo and goes, well, that sounds like a really good idea. How about I put you on the Supreme Court? And he puts Lewis Powell, the guy who wrote the memo, on the Supreme Court, where he's the deciding vote in Bellotti and Buckley. So Bellotti's, those two decisions are 76 to 78. And what they say is, yeah, I read the Constitution, and it says that money is speech. No, it isn't. And no, it didn't. That's not even close to true. They just made it up. And they said, okay, and corporations, they're human beings. No, they're not. That's preposterous, right? And they have the same inalienable rights as human beings and citizens do. And money is speech, and speech is an inalienable right. So corporations can spend unlimited money in politics. And there goes our democracy. Gone. Okay? So Citizens United just shot a dead horse with a Gatling gun and made it worse and put it on steroids. But it was already dead in 78. So that's why every chart you see for the rest of your life, you'll see this. Every chart about the American economy starts to diverge in 1978. So until 38 to 78, we have golden 40 years of economic prosperity. We create the greatest middle class the world has ever seen. And our productivity is sky high, but our wages match our productivity. After 78, productivity is still sky high, best in the world. Okay, sometimes people, the American worker's lazy. Not remotely true. We work our ass off, okay? But wages flatline. And they've been flatlining for about 50 years straight. And the reason is because the Supreme Court made bribery legal. So in order to get past the Supreme Court, you only have one choice. That's an amendment. And so you have to get an amendment. Amendments are very difficult. But so, for example, you need 2/3 of Congress to even propose the amendment. So, well, why would Congress propose an amendment that would take away their own power, right? Because almost everybody in Congress got there through corruption. Their main talent is, I can kiss corporate ass better than you can, right? So they take the most amount of money. A person with more money in Congress wins 95% of the time, right? But the good news is the Founding Fathers were geniuses, and they put in a second outlet. They said, or 2/3 of the states can call for a convention where you can propose an amendment. And after an amendment is proposed, then 3/4 of the states have to ratify it. That's what makes it so difficult, because getting 3/4 of the states, there's so many red states, so many blue states, getting 3/4 of the states to agree is near impossible. But there is one issue that the whole country agrees on. 93% of Americans believe that politicians serve their donors and not their voters. So this is the one thing we can unite on. If we unite on this, we push our states to call for a convention, we all go to the convention together, we bring democracy alive, and we propose amendments to the Constitution, and the best amendment gets 3/4 of the states to ratify, you go above the Supreme Court, and you solve the whole thing.
So if 93% of people want this, why hasn't it happened yet? I mean, the obvious answer is there's corporate control of the media and the politicians, but it seems like our current system and the megaphone that a president has, you should be able to kind of unite the populace left and right. So it shouldn't be that difficult to do. Like, why hasn't a person like Trump, who's a billionaire, or on the left, a rich businessman, run just on this and win?
Well, eventually they will, right? And so that's why I actually have a lot of hope, even though things seem super dark right now. So, and that's why I was for Bernie. So I can come back to that. But why hasn't Trump done it is easy. He's like, what am I, a sucker? The guy gives me money, I do what the guy wants. Why would I get rid of that? That's how I got into power. And so that's how I'm doing it now. I go to Miriam Mendelsohn and say, give me $100 million and I'll let Israel annex the West Bank, right? So I'll go to the oil companies and give me $1 billion, and I'll give you tax subsidies. I'll let you drill. I'll take away regulation. Why would I stop that?
You think he likes money more than he likes being popular? Because there's a big part of him that's a populist in the sense that like he loves being admired by large masses of people.
Yeah. So, and you're absolutely right, but that is the fault of MAGA. And so MAGA, you're screwing populists in a way that is infuriating, okay? And smart libertarians like Dave Smith have figured this out, and that's why he's just as mad at Trump as I am. And it's because he took
I fucking hate them.
movement and he redirected it for his own personal gain. MAGA, figure it out. Come on, right? And so if you say, oh, you think Democrats have figured out that these policies... No, they largely haven't figured it out either, and I think there's blue MAGA, and I could talk about that as well. But for those of us on the populist left, yeah, we're not enamored by politicians. And for example, when Bernie does the wrong thing, we call him out. Well, Bernie's not my goddamn uncle. I don't like him for some personality reason. It's not a cult of personality. You do the right thing, I love you for. You do the wrong thing, I'm gonna kick your ass for it, right? So, but Donald Trump does this massive, ridiculous corruption over and over again, and MAGA's like, I'm here for it, love it. As long as you're doing the corruption, I'm okay with it.
What does Trump say about getting money out of politics? Does he?
He says nothing about it. Go ahead, MAGA. Why haven't you held him to account? Like, so when Bernie it helped Biden take out $15 minimum wage from the Senate bill on the first bill that was introduced in the Biden administration, we went nuts. We did a petition. We sent in videos to Bernie, our audience going, don't kill it, Bernie. Don't kill it. And so Bernie then reintroduced it as an amendment. It got voted down, but he did the right thing, right? That is us holding our top leader accountable and saying, you better get back on track, okay? Because we're not here for you and your personal self-aggrandizement. We're here for policy, right? And if MAGA was actually here for policy, they would have absolutely leveled Trump on the fact that I mean, remember what he ran on, Drain the Swamp. That's why he won in 2016, right? So I predicted on ABC right after the DNC, and Hillary Clinton was up 10, 12 points, whatever she was, and I said Trump would win, okay? And the whole panel laughed out loud, right? They're like, get a load of this crazy guy. I said he's a populist who seems to hate the establishment in a populist time. And so, and Drain the Swamp is a great slogan. And I knew he would win when he was in a Republican debate, and he said, I paid all these guys. Before, I paid them, and they did whatever I wanted. And I was like, that's so true, right? And people will love that, and especially Republican voters will love that. I actually have a lot of respect for Republican voters because they actually genuinely hate corruption.
So what would an amendment look like that helps prevent money being an influence in politics?
So I started a group called Wolfpack.
Nice name.
Thank you. Wolf-pack.com. And the reason why I named it Wolfpack is because everyone in Washington I knew would hate that name. It's a populist name, and everybody in Washington snickers. No, you're supposed to name it Americans for America and just trick people, etc. No. Wolfpack means we're coming for you, okay? We're not coming for you in a weirdo, physical, or violent way. We're coming for you in a democratic way, okay? So we're going to go to those state houses. We're going to get them to propose a convention, and we did it in 5 states. But then the Democratic Party started beating us back. We'll get to that. And so we are going to overturn your apple cart, and we're going to put the American people back in charge. So what does the amendment say? Number one, a lot of people will have different opinions on what it should say, and that's what you sort out in a convention. So, for example, one of the things that conservatives can propose, which makes sense, is term limits. Because the reason why these super old politicians are in charge is because they provide a return on investment. So if you give to Biden, Pelosi, or McConnell, they're going to deliver for you. They love that return on investment. They don't want to risk it on a new guy. The new guy might have principles, or might want to actually do a little bit for his voters, boo. Whereas these old, and every corrupt system has these old guys hanging around that help maintain power, etc. So my particular proposal in the amendments would be a couple of things. One is end private financing of elections. So if you're a business person, you're a capitalist, you know this with absolute certainty. if somebody signs
receive
your
loot,
check,
chip claw.
that's the person you work for,
You receive
right?
loot, flimsy chain
So
cloak.
if private interests are funding politicians, the politicians will serve private interests. And then you're going to get into a fight like Elon did in New Jersey, where the car dealerships and
Aggro.
Tesla are getting into an auction. Can I hear 100,000? No,
Flimsy
a
chain
million,
braces.
2 million, 3 million, right? And,
You loot 3
and now
copper.
you got to go
Aggro.
bribe the government official.
Device
That's
Club
called a
says, this land
campaign
belongs to the Device Brotherhood
contribution.
now.
And this is a terrible system, right? And the private financing, go to complete public financing of elections. That's when the conservatives, because they've been
You loot 3 copper.
propagandized by corporate media. Yes, mainstream media got into your head
Aggro.
too, and right-wing media got into your head too, and right-wing media also financed by a lot of this corrupt interest. And so they tell you, oh, you don't want to publicly finance. Oh my God, you'd be
You loot 3
spending
copper.
like $1 billion on
Aggro.
politicians. Brother, they're spending trillions of dollars of your money because they're financed by the guys that they're giving all of your money to.
So can you
Receive loot,
educate me?
great
Does that prevent something like
Aggro.
Citizen
Free copper.
United? So like super PACs are all gone in
Device
this
Sub
case.
says, I see those
all-
fools at the
Yeah.
Abbey sent some
so
fresh meat for us.
indirect funding is also.
Indirect funding's gone, direct funding's gone. You have to set up some thresholds. Not everybody can just get money to run. You have to prove that you have some
You
sort
loot
of
3 copper.
popular support. So signature gathering. You would still allow for small money donations, like up to $100, something along those lines. That's
Not 5,000 or whatever it is now.
yeah, I think 5,000 is too high, but those are fine debates. Yeah, but you basically want to create an incentive. Everything is
You
about
loot 4
incentives and disincentives. Again, capitalists realize this better than anyone else, right? So you want to set up an incentive to serve your voters, not your donors. So if you take away private donors, well, there goes that incentive.
Aggro.
That's gigantic, right? And then if you set up small grassroots funding as a way to
Aggro.
get past a threshold to get the funding to run an election, well then good, because then you're serving small donors, which are generally voters, right? So that's what you want. And
You receive
ending
loot,
private
leather belt.
financing is critical. But the second thing
You loot 4
is
copper.
Aggro.
ending corporate personhood. So this is where you get into a lot of fights, because you have two reasons. One is some folks
You loot 2
have a
copper.
principled
Aggro.
position against it, and they say, well, I mean, the Sierra Club is technically a corporation. ACLU is technically a corporation. And so if you end corporate
You
personhood,
loot 5
then
copper.
that could endanger their existence, right? No, it doesn't endanger their existence at all, right? So it doesn't endanger GM or GE's existence. It doesn't endanger anybody's existence. The corporations exist. We're not trying to take them away. I would never do that, right? That's not smart. That's not workable, etc. We're just saying they don't have constitutional rights. So they have the rights that we give them. And by the way, read the Founding Fathers. This is also in my book. They hated corporations. The American Revolution was partly
Yeah.
against
Because
the British
corporations.
India Company.
Yeah.
And so the Tea Party in Boston was against that corporation. They threw their tea overboard. It was not against the British monarchy. And so all the Founding Fathers warned us over and over again. Watch out for corporations, okay? Because once they form, they will amass money and power
item. Crack
and
leather
look
gloves.
to kill off democracy. And they were totally right. That's exactly what happened. And so it's not that you don't have them. It's that through democratic capitalism, you limit their power. You can give them a bunch of rights. You say, hey, you have a right to exist. You have a right to do this, this, and this, okay? But you do not have constitutional rights of a citizen.
Aggro.
And so you don't have the right to speak to a
Receive loot,
politician
ruin
by
leather
giving
straps.
them $1 billion.
And you believe
Structures
that
defeated submarine
the
addiction material.
people will be able to find the right policies to regulate and tax the corporations such that capitalism can flourish still.
Yes, you know why? Because I'm a real populist and I believe in the people.
I do
So
too.
Light armor kit.
I drive the establishment
At
crazy
whatever cost.
because they
Yeah.
don't believe in the people. They think,
They don't.
oh, check, have you seen
They
MAGA?
believe in
Have
the
you
highest
seen these
bidder.
guys?
Yeah.
Have you seen the radicals on the left? We're so much smarter. Well, you know how many Ivy League degrees we have, right? And we know what we're doing. No, you don't. No, everybody to some degree looks out for their own interests, right? Why I like capitalism and why I love democracy is because it's the wisdom of the crowd. And so in the long run, the crowd is right. Oftentimes in the short term, we're wrong, okay? But the wisdom of the crowd in the long run is much, much better
Yeah.
than the elites that run
Agreed.
things.
Agreed.
The elites say, well, we're so smart and
Create light
educated,
letter.
so we're going to know better what's good for you. No, brother, you're going to know what's better for you.
Create light letter.
And so here's something that a lot of people get wrong on the populist left and right.
You create
They think,
light
oh,
letter.
those guys are evil. They're not evil. I've met them. I worked at MSNBC. I worked on
You create
cable.
light letter.
I went to Wharton, Columbia Law. I know a lot of those guys.
You create light letter.
And so they're not at all evil. They don't even know that they're mainly serving their own interests.
Aggro.
They just naturally do it, right?